I'm very happy of having all these guests together with us in this new adventure. And of course, we also wanted to somehow connect the European experience and what happened last year, because 2018 has been the European Year of Cultural Heritage, with what is happening in Matera this year. So also the legacy of the Year of Cultural Heritage, European Year of Cultural Heritage, into the year as Capital of Culture of Matera. So we are going to hear also what is going to happen in Matera related to cultural heritage. So I think we can start. I don't know if you want to...
No, I'm here just for the photo. It's not true. Welcome to everybody. In our idea this evening, it's like an inspiration moment also, not for only for the partner of the project, but also for the cultural and creative people who are here, and especially for people who work now inside of the new cluster of creative and cultural industries, who was born in Basilicata the last 4 months, I think, if I remember, in September 2018. The name is Basilicata Creativa, so we need and we can continue to involve a lot of people and operators in Basilicata in around the topic of cultural and creative industries, also not only from Materahub, but also in Invest of cultural and Basilicata Creativa, so the cluster of cultural and creative Italy industry. So maybe it's all. We can start with the first presentation.
Okay, Alberto Gulli from Fitzcarraldo Foundation that will present us a project about audience development. I can say that Fitzcarraldo is now one of the most famous organizations related to audience development and initiatives on how to develop this, and I think it's a very important topic in general for culture, but it becomes much more important for cultural heritage as well.
Thank you. Which responsibility you gave me? Naming.
You can push in.
If I don't agree, I can manage. Thank you. So to change immediately the perspective, I would propose to start with a short quiz on audience development, and you have to answer. So first question, what is audience development about? Increasing audiences from a quantitative point of view, deepening relationship with the audiences, diversifying audiences, or all the answers are correct? Fine, too easy, this, too easy. Second question, are audience development and audience engagement synonymous? Who is for no? Okay, and who is for yes? No one. So, the other didn't vote. So, fine. Who is responsible for audience development implementation in a cultural organization? The marketing department, the educational department, the artistic direction, or the whole organization? So you studied a lot, so you are very deep knowledge expert of this matter. So the fourth, audience development implies short-term ad hoc projects or long-term strategic planning. Which one? B, long-term strategic planning. So you can come here and let's go on with the presentation. Thank you for answering to my first ice-breaking moment. And it's the story I'm going to tell you in less than 10 minutes, as you give me. Starts with 3 considerations. One more general is dealing with the role of culture as a resource to face the new challenges of contemporary society. I mean, all the issues linked to social cohesion, community building, integration, inclusion, active citizenship, and so on. So these finally, the goal to build a much more democratic and inclusive society. This is the first general consideration. The second is a little bit more specific, is dealing with the lack of cultural participation. And that is a sort of, is a low degree of participation in cultural activities. And this is, we can consider this a sort of social and economic loss. So this is a more specific consideration. The third one is that the cultural organization lacks of specific competencies about how to deal with audiences. So they are more attracted by the quantitative, while now we are dealing with much more on the qualitative of the participation, of the engagement, of the involvement. So this is a big switch. And we started from these three considerations, and we considered that we try to contribute to solve this problem, and to try to help the cultural organizations to be able to develop a strategy to deal with the audiences in a different way. More participation, more active ways of also something like co-creation and this kind of involvement. And how we try to reach this general goal is we start, as we are doing in EU Heritage, to work on a new professional profile. In this case, a little bit more specific profile than we talk this day. And so this is a sort of transversal role into the organization that has a global vision and try to help the whole organization to orient their activity towards or putting the audience in the center as a specific goal and a strategic goal. So this was really coherence with the role of Fitzcarraldo and the mission of Fitzcarraldo. And at that time we are this first project ad Este was in a lifelong learning program, Leonardo project, funded. And so at that time the audience development was among the first priority of the European Commission. So as it was the first step to set up the consortium and define deeply the project idea. This is a very difficult step when you are developing a European project, because there are so many different points of view, so many different experiences, so really to work to really go deeply into the idea is a really hard job. So finally, the process and the path is, we can say in a certain way, traditional. So there is a part of research, and the research started from investigating in how the training programs are organized, if there are at the time, and the one and the program, the existing program, how articulated and develop the competencies, the specific competencies. And then to try to investigate also the needs of the sector, so the cultural organization, in terms of specific competences and needs to oriented towards audience goals. And so we arrived to define a set of competencies, a mixing set of competencies, and it was hard and soft skills, above all leadership, because we are convinced that audience engagement, we say now, and not just development, that means more a quantitative increase of audience, and the leadership, so the capacity to implement an audience-oriented strategy is really important to change their attitude. And so this mix of competencies led us to define a training methodology that was also promoted in the different countries of the partners. And it means that we involve 65 cultural operators in these 5 countries. How many minutes I have more? One more. Beautiful this. Yeah, allora mettiamole tutte insieme. Just 2 words about the competencies. We have found 5 main areas of knowledge. The first one is a theoretical framework. I mean, we are not dealing with a profile that is specific in marketing, but you have to know arts marketing, communication, social cultural dialogue, and so on. You have also you need also some competencies dealing with strategies, organizing skills, leadership that I already mentioned, relational social skills, and then experience, contextual knowledge. This is a 4th area of competencies, and other analytical skills, because you have to understand the audience, you have to also be able to evaluate the process that you are building, and also you have to be able to deal with the stakeholders and benchmarking activities. So the importance of soft skills, and what the last words is on the timeline, because it's important for me for European projects to go deep in trying to build a sort of path, and not just occasionally to work on a specific topic. So we built since 2013 as this consortium, and this small group of experts is going on. And so we, together with some of the partners, we developed this study on audience development, and we found 30 case history of best practice. And then we work on the Connect project, that the goal was to bridge the gap between the academical approach and the practitioner approach in teaching audience development. And the last one is Adeste Plus, that is the pilot project in which we create many teams composed by 2 partners. One is, for example, Fitzcarraldo, a training institution. The other is a cultural institution, and we have to work together to implement, to help this institution to implement an audience strategy. That's clear?
I don't know if there are questions, like burning question. Unfortunately, we have kind of run, but thank you. Super. Now I will invite 2 guests from the Aldenbiesen Castle, Julie Fouquet and Guy Tilkin, to present us two practices actually in one. Please come. Yeah, I want you to come together so I'm not alone on the stage. No, they are going to present us two very interesting experiences that is happening in this marvelous castle that is in the Flanders part of Belgium. Julie is going to present us a project that is starting from a very nice concept, and it's that learning happens everywhere. So that's really an inspiring way to present and introduce the Badges project, that it's about understanding the value, the learning value of cultural heritage. And then with Guy we will explore the topic of storytelling, and he will tell us something about this festival that is happening in Aldenbiesen. So.
Thank you, Paolo. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Fouquet, and I work in the Landcommanderij Aldenbiesen in Belgium. In fact, this is our work spot where we have our office also. And this is my colleague, Guy Tilkin. We are a large heritage site in Belgium, and we have a lot of different activities going on in the castle. We work for the European department, and we deal with educational projects in a European context. But we also are a storytelling festival. We have cultural, historical exhibitions taking place. We are a conference center, so you can rent rooms with us. We are a music castle. We have very different activities going on. We have a large tradition in coordinating and participating in European educational projects, but for me, I only started 1.5 years ago. My colleague has a very large experience in this. The educational projects we are dealing with mainly are around heritage, storytelling and validation of non-formal learning. My colleague will tell you more about the storytelling aspect. I will move on to the validation of non-formal learning. I want to talk to you tonight about a project Badges called, and it's all about learning that happens everywhere, and you can learn in a heritage site, in a museum, in a national park. Everywhere you go, you learn things, but normally you're not aware of it. And in fact, if you're not aware of it, if it's not visible, then you can't get rewarded for it. You don't get a certificate or anything that proves that you have learned something. So this project wants to change that. When we talk about learning, we talk about competences. And I introduced on this slide some of the 21st century competences that the European Commission wants to improve. There are a lot of competences that you can develop. So I introduced some of them: critical thinking, creativity, research skills, communication, collaboration, and also ICT literacy and other literacy. If you're talking about competence-oriented learning, then it requires a certain context in which you can learn. It has to be a context in which you can do active learning and not just sit and watch and listen as you do tonight. It has to be an explorative context, somewhere where you can be creative, constructive, and then you will learn more, we think. I don't know if you're acquainted with the concept of competences, but if we talk about competences, it's in fact a combination of 3 things. It's knowledge, skills, and then emotions, attitude. And if you combine them all 3, then you get a competence. If you want to validate a competence, if you want to valorize it, create worth to it, then it's better to connected with a reference system that you all know what it's worth. The reference system that we use for this project is a level 5 system. If you want to learn more about it, you can always email us and we will share the slides with you afterwards. I also inserted a flyer about our project, so you can read it at home afterwards. It tells you more about why we do this project, what the project is about, who are the partners, what the impact will be, or we hope that the impact will be. In Aldenbiesen, we are running a pilot project at the moment because this project runs from 2017 to 2019. So at the moment, the pilot project is taking place, and we have a large-scale historical exhibition about 1,000 years County of Loon. And that's the region that we are situated in. So the castle was in fact in the County of Loon, it still is, but we never call it the County of Loon anymore. But we took this project to prepare some assignments in it and to try to make the learning in the exhibition visible for the visitors. The real challenge for us was to move from historical knowledge. When you enter an exhibition, you read some billboards and you learn more about the historical facts. But in fact, we wanted to move from historical knowledge to competence development. So this was a real challenge for us. At the end, we tried to focus on a do-it-yourself interpretation competence. So we always wanted people to think about what they saw and what the relation was to their own life. How can you relate it to your own life? And how can you interpret what you see, what you learn? We always have an activity. We have 12 or 13 activities. There is an assignment to it. You have to relate to yourself and reflect on it. And we try to introduce 2 levels of learning. A basic level, when you do the exhibition, then you can earn a Loan Connoisseur badge, because we say you have learned something and we want to reward it. And afterwards you can do a tour around the County of Loon, discover more about it, and then you can do a crosswords and you can earn a Loan Expert badge. I put a slide in it about the reference system. So I'm not going to talk about it all. It's something that my colleague made. But what we are talking about, the Loan Connoisseur level, is the first level, the basic level. So it's always a kind of knowledge that you acquire, so knowing what the meaning and the value of heritage is, and that it varies from person to person, so it's a really personal one. Then the perception, observing that heritage has a different meaning for and impact on different people. That's really in the activity, the skills, and then you have the attitude attached to it, feeling the need to find a specific meaning in what you see and experience. We developed an app with our partners, so you can do the tour in the exhibition with an app, and then you scan a QR code, you get an activity. If you do all the activities, then there will be a badge assigned to you automatically and sent to your email address. We also have a version on paper if you're digitally illiterate. Afterwards, you receive a reward. We validate your learning with an e-badge. You can put it in your e-portfolio, and we hope to set up a system of collecting badges in different spots, and that you can put them in your portfolio and maybe use them when you go for a job or something. But we also issued a magnetic fridge badge if you don't use all this digital stuff. There's always metadata included because we want you to know what you've learned. So what is the value of the badge? So we include it in the badge. And I want to show you a little movie that the European Commission made of our project. We were selected by the European Commission together with 4 other projects in relation to the European Year of Cultural Heritage last year. Thank you. Normally
This project is about badging, and badges in this case means to offer a certificate or a reward to people who have learned something. And badges in this case are cultural badges because this is about non-formal learning in cultural heritage contexts. One of our slogans is learning happens everywhere. And for us, heritage contexts are the ideal context for non-formal learning. And if we agree that one can learn in a heritage environment, why shouldn't we try to validate it? Why shouldn't we try to make it visible?
When people visit a museum or another heritage site, they learn a lot, but they're not aware of it. And what we want to do with this project Badges is to give recognition to this learning and to validate them with a badge. And it's not that much about giving them a real badge that they can put on their clothing, but it's about issuing digital badges that they can use furthermore in life, and they can collect different badges, and it's all about competences. So there is metadata included in the badge, and that says what is learned at the site. We have chosen Aldenbiesen for the piloting project because there was a very large exhibition taking place, and we wanted to use this exhibition to give a demonstration of what badges could mean for other heritage sites.
So we try to help visitors to interpret the heritage that they experience during this visit. And in a way, the badge that we issue is a do-it-yourself interpretation badge. And I really would like to create this badging culture that people look and collect badges. We really try to emphasize different roles of heritage in Europe.
Okay, I would like to tell you a bit more about Aldenbiesen as a storytelling castle. So as you know now, it's a nice castle. It's a state cultural center, by the way. And in 1995, we started an international storytelling festival in Aldenbiesen. And this festival is a special one because from the start, we conceived it as a multilingual festival. That means that we have storytellers from all over Europe, yes, and we tell stories in 8 different languages. Dutch, which is our mother tongue, Dutch, English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Swedish. And there is no translation whatsoever. So that means that we target people who know those languages, or at least are learning those languages. And that's what we try to do from the start. So you can see storytellers from different countries, 8 languages. We only work with native speakers, including Italians, by the way. So we have Italian partners, and so we have Italian storytellers. It's for pupils. So during the day, it's for secondary and primary education pupils, and in the evening it's for adult learners, because people in Flanders learning a language is a hobby. So they come to Italy, they love the language, they come home and they say, I would like to learn Italian. And then at some point, so in Aldenbiesen, we provide a native speaker storyteller. And the program works very, very well. I can tell you that for instance, in 2018, the festival lasts for 9 days. It's from Monday till the next Tuesday. We do about 200 shows in one festival, and we sell 19,000 tickets, which makes this by far the biggest international storytelling festival in Europe. And it's unique in the world in its multilingualism, in the multilingual approach to it. So that's the International Storytelling Festival in Aldenbiesen. We've been running that for 23 years now, and it's on in April, and I can assure you that when we start the subscriptions, in 1 month we're sold out. And it's unique. I would like to stress that it's about oral storytelling, so storytelling as a performing art. It's not about folk music, it's not about a combination with music, it's pure storytelling. And storytelling in our case is like usually a solo person on stage telling stories. Maybe he has a chair or she has a chair, and that's the only attribute that person has, so it's really storytelling. And in that respect, first I would like to say that starting from the International Storytelling Festival, we became a storytelling castle, meaning that we try to be an expertise center for storytelling in Flanders and in Europe. So when we work of course, on storytelling, we run workshops on storytelling, we do conferences on storytelling and applied storytelling, and we run a number of European projects. We've done Erasmus Plus and lifelong learning projects on storytelling. And we are also the seat of FEST, the European Federation for Storytelling. I will tell you a little bit more about that in the end. Storytelling is really very special. A storyteller is something is different from an actor, because and youngsters love it, and also when it's in a foreign language. But a storytelling addresses the audience. Like I'm talking to you. Storytelling is talking to the audience, and that's really very direct. If you look at a drama, people are playing, they are actors, and they have co-actors, and the whole scenery and everything takes place on stage. If you listen to a storyteller, then that storyteller will do an appeal on your imagination, and the story takes place in your head. It's really, so a storyteller walks through his images and creates images in the head of the audience. They may be different, because the images you create are part of your meaning-making framework. But this is what happens. So in that respect, storytelling is unique, and it is very direct, and it really is quite nice to experience. For us, storytelling, we start from storytelling as a performing art, but nowadays storytelling is also like you can apply storytelling. So storytelling, you can use storytelling and storytelling techniques in education. You can use storytelling techniques for inclusion, to work in tourism and heritage, for instance, for publicity. I mean, there is a lot to do about storytelling and marketing and so on. So these are all these elements. We're not dealing with all of that. As I said, in FEST also, and in our festival, we're talking about storytelling as a performing art, but we also work a little bit on applied storytelling. So here you see storytelling as a performing art addresses the audience, the direct connection with the audience, and also storytelling is not just about talking and about communication skills, it's about creating a storytelling community. It's about connecting with the audience, and that's also special about storytelling, and it's about orchestrating the imagination of the audience. And we also talk about, we call it co-creation, because the teller creates a story, orchestrates the imagination, but the listener is creating also. So it's even a kind of co-creation and a piece of art done by the audience, and that's quite unique. Also, storytelling deals with narrative thinking, and in that respect, it is quite useful. You can use it in educational context. So narrative thinking, storytelling as a meaning-making tool, storytelling as a memory tool, storytelling as an identity creator. Narrative thinking, I think I've had to skip because it's only 7-8 minutes, so I had to skip a number of things here. But if you're interested, I can give you a full presentation. And also, by the way, we have done a number of projects, European projects on this, for instance, on storytelling in education, narrative thinking. If you want to know more about that, you can ask me afterwards. So storytelling really is about the content, the message, the values. It's about giving meaning. It's about narrative thinking, writing skills, social skills and competences. Sorry, I thought you were giving me the warning. You have more time. Yeah, I have more time. Okay, thank you very much. So here you can see that we're talking about really a set of competences that are related to storytelling. So imagine, and now I think I'm moving, what do we mean by storytelling in education? It's not just a teacher coming in and telling a story to start the day or to start the lesson or something. Storytelling is part of it, of course. But also you have to think in terms of storying content. For instance, if we give workshops for teachers on storytelling in education, we don't try to turn teachers into storytellers, because I mean, perhaps they don't want it. What do we try to do is, first of all, to look at their curriculum and say, okay, what in your curriculum can you do in the storytelling way? And that means, how can you create a place, a time, an action, an emotion, add characters, etc. And I just give the example here about Archimedes. We all know Archimedes, who was in his bath and crying out, "Eureka!" because he discovered that the volume of his body and the volume of the rays of the water is the same. That's a story. I don't know if it's true. That's not the point. But it creates an image in our head, and we remember it. We remember the image. And thanks to the fact that we remember the image, then we can remember the whole thing. We know Newton. That's not true, by the way. We know Newton in his garden getting an apple on his head, and we talk about gravity, yes, which never took place. But it's a story that's related to this thing, and that helps us remember. You see, so these are all elements that we can add to learning and storytelling as a learning tool, let's say. By the way, when we look, and that's in the case in Europe, storytelling is not in the curriculum of teacher training. Nowhere, by the way. So that's very strange. In my country, for instance, you have to learn music. You have to learn to play the recorder to become a teacher in primary education. You don't need any storytelling skills. That's not in the curriculum. So these things, we try to work on that. What do we mean storytelling for inclusion? Yes, so then we use the term bottom-up narrative art. And I can't go into that in this time, but I mean, it's about, so there are a number of projects where we use storytelling as a technique to work with refugees, to work with migrants, to work with vulnerable groups and so on, because storytelling really is very strong in this respect, to hear and to be heard. Yes, storytelling is their heritage. And so they can, that's what they carry with them, because they didn't bring their monuments. Yes, so all these elements are very important for story. So we try to use and to apply storytelling techniques for inclusion, for instance. That's also what we try to do. And of course, in heritage, when we relate it to heritage interpretation, where again, if you can look at heritage and you can follow a guided tour where that guide is talking about dates, about numbers, about names, about anything, and you will probably forget it. What's the trick? The trick is to relate it to your own meaning making and value framework. And that's interpretation, and you can do that through storytelling. That's also an important element there. As I said in the beginning, Aldenbiesen is the seat of FEST, the European Federation for Storytelling, because the sector has a number of problems. For instance, storytelling is not in the curriculum of teacher training. But you can be a storyteller, but you cannot become a storyteller. Why not? Nowhere in Europe, now it's starting in some places, there is no formal training in storytelling. So you can't be a bachelor in storytelling or a master in storytelling. It doesn't exist. Nowhere. You can become an actor. So most storytellers are actors that became storytellers, or teachers, or street artists. They became storytellers. So there is no formal curriculum and no formal diploma for storytellers, for instance. So these are problems that the sector faces. And within FEST, so FEST is the European Federation for Storytelling, and we have about 70 organizations in 23 countries in Europe, and they can be festival organizers, or they can be like professional associations of storytellers, that kind of organized training places for storytellers. And so we try to, and we have a European, a Creative Europe network grant, and in that grant we try to, first of all, create a structural development of a storytelling to make the network bigger, to enhance the visibility of storytelling, so to make it known. It's really, if you talk to people, and I'm not a storyteller, but if a storyteller is there, and what are you doing? What's your profession? I'm a storyteller. Oh yes, what do you do for a living? I'm a storyteller. And do you earn money with storytelling? That's a real situation. That's the profession. And that's what professional storytellers have to face at this moment. They're not recognized. There are no quality standards for the profession. There is no official curriculum, no formal curriculum, etc. So that's what we really try to realize here, professional development of storytelling, creating a curriculum, creating a competence profile, etc. We are working also on storytelling in other sectors in society and raise the European dimension. And for instance, we also link with the cultural capitals. We introduce storytelling in Valletta, we introduce storytelling in Leeuwarden, and perhaps we will try to introduce storytelling here in Matera. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. We moved from Belgium to Spain, and we moved from storytelling to money, because Concha Luque from La Cultura from Madrid is going to talk us about entrepreneurial skills applied to cultural heritage and cultural organization. Okay, so I see that you are all like ready to listen to this. Thank you.
So, hello everybody. I would like to share with you our findings as supporting entrepreneurship. La Cultura is a non-profit, no, go for the first, thank you. La Cultura is a non-profit association we founded in 2014. So it was set up, I went to a demand detect in Spain with new professional skills within the creative and cultural sector. So moreover, supporting entrepreneurship is a real necessity. Because of this context, we developed several programs to promote these competences. As a result, we received feedback for our entrepreneurs, and they tell us that it's in the learning of soft skills where they feel that they're making the most progress. For them, competences as adaptability or teamwork are key. So moreover, they remark personal skills as confidence. So if we talk about entrepreneurship from the point of view of the professional, entrepreneurship is managing complexity. So if we look at its highest exponent as someone who runs a startup, this professional is a juggler, is someone who has to deal with too many issues at the same time. Moreover, if we talk about the entrepreneur attitude as a mindset of a new ways of working, because it's a real necessity. Nowadays, all professionals should consider this attitude. But it's not easy, because this attitude is like contemporaneity. It's liquid, difficult to define, changing according to time and place. So because of this experience, we define 3 types of entrepreneurs as a personas to understand the diversity of users we have in our programs. Firstly, we support Frank. He represents those workers in an advanced stage of their career who decided to go for a second act. His greatest effort would be a change of mind, because his professional experience is of a different nature. Another type are those in their mid-career, like Stefano. He's a professional with different experiences, so he approached entrepreneurship as the best model that fits his profile. But for example, for Rocio, as personas close to university graduation, in Spain, the starting point is very far from entrepreneurship. It should be necessary to unlearn certain patterns installed in recent professionals. For La Cultura, the unexplored field is young people and adolescents. This is now our next challenge. From another point of view, we also believe it's essential working to detect professional gaps in the sector. In an outside glance, we must take into account our framework. Cultural heritage is part of the cultural and creative industries. And in addition, it's interesting to learn from other experiences and to analyze projects where innovation is emerging and somehow the interest of the public arises. So we have to work within the sector, because above all, entrepreneurship is about prototyping, about being close to and interactive with the real world. To understand this context, we analyze the proposals through two business theories that point the different models of entrepreneurs. One model is about strategy, about if the project is in a red ocean, crowded of companies, or in a blue one, role not developed. This first is about innovation, and the other is about making a difference from other proposals. Another classification is about who is your client. If it's another company, or on the other hand, your objective is right to the consumer. It's a business to business or a business to consumer. In our experience, we have supported viable projects for being innovative and close to the new user experiences. Others were in a red ocean and were consolidated through making a difference about customer care, or in another model, through build a company by the trust of professionals and institutions with whom they have collaborated. After experimenting the complexity of supporting entrepreneurship, we decided to focus on a first professional stage, adaptable to more quantity of professional profiles. Because it's a reality, as this quote from the report Working in 2033 describes, that work is changing in all its variables. In most situations, today's work demands cross-disciplinary professionals. We think that nowadays, even the fact of sending resumes is an act of entrepreneurship itself. As a way to conclude, I'd like to show you a tool with which we check the status of an entrepreneur project. We start from the fact that usually the professionals of the cultural and creative industries focus on the product. For example, architects focus on the design of buildings, and historians focus on the conservation of the cultural heritage. Nowadays, the professional journey involves dividing the work among the different operational parts of a business. Also, this layout draws the need to count on different profiles, and that's why entrepreneurship is also about team building. It's about teampreneurs. So I'd like to finish with some tips for entrepreneurs. One, if you are not the only one in the world with that idea, but from your passion, with an open mind and work, you can build a path to entrepreneurship. Two, business knowledge won't do the job for you, but you need to look to a methodology you feel comfortable with and repeat it day after day. Don't try to do by yourself everything. Look for colleagues with different skills to share the trip. Unless in Spain, there are no investors for an elevator pitch. You must start giving everything you have to the project. And 5, outside of a stable job is very cool. But if you get to live about your own project, this is the greatest professional satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a very interesting area. La Cultura has been working with the University Complutense in Madrid, exactly. And so, okay, with the City Council. So there are very interesting experiences of connecting the higher education in arts and humanities with the creative and cultural sector. We continue now with a project that has been become very famous, and also with in the number of people from the sector that they have engaged in online courses. A project this is called Musa, and it's about digital skills for museum professionals. I invite Achilles Kames from Hellenic Open University here on the stage. They are the coordinator of this European project. If I remember correctly, you had like 5,000 people that enrolled for your course?
You spoiled my surprise.
Oh, sorry.
Hello everyone, and thanks for the invitation and thank you for being here. I am going to present Project Musa. Musa is a Sector Skills Alliance project like the one we started today. I am Achilles Kameas. I am a professor with the Hellenic Open University in Greece, and I am the founder and director of the DAISY Research Group in the Hellenic Open University. A few words about our group. This is a group that promotes the development of technology to serve societal needs. We started as a purely technological group trying to realize what is called the vision of ambient intelligence, and which now manifests itself as the cloud technology, sensors, smart buildings, smart energy, smart cars, smart cities, smart people sometimes. But along the way, we shifted from pure technological research to research that serves societal needs, professional development, needs of people to become better. And in this respect, we have participated and are still participating in various projects. Here is a map of these projects: digital competencies, competence development, multiculturalism and inclusion, education, entrepreneurship, and of course, projects in the cultural sector. And one of these projects is Musa, the one that I've been invited to talk about. Musa is a project that tries to address the shortage of ICT skills in the museum professionals, and tries to develop these skills together with transferable or otherwise called 21st century competencies for this audience, for this sector, so that not only the museum professionals and in general the professionals of the cultural sector benefit, but also the general public, because they will get in the end better services. The outcomes of the project, which is now in its last year of the 3 years, well, first we identified a set of digital and transversal competencies that were called in, could be used to fill this, to close this gap. Then we designed 4 new job role profiles. Then we designed VET curricula for each one of these, training curricula for each of these profiles. Then we set up, and we are now piloting a 3-stage training course, which makes use of a MOOC and an online platform. In order to produce these outcomes, we started from a research stage that had 2 aspects. The first was to try to identify the needs of the professionals in the sector, and the second tried to map, to find out what were the offers, the training offers to the professionals of the sector regarding those needs. So we did focus groups, we did interviews with experts, we did desk research, analyzed many training programs. We started with the professionals of the sector, talking to museum directors, to people who work in the museums in different roles, in different levels, but also to people who would like to work in the museums but didn't have the opportunity yet. And we have in the consortium the partners who were closer to this to the subject, to the topic, did these interviews, while the training partners or the educational partners mostly focused on the mapping of the training offers. So we analyzed what was there and what was offered and what was not offered. You see here different instruments we used with fairly good participation, I can say. And the end of this, the outcome of this process was the description of 4 new occupational profiles: digital strategy manager, digital collections curator, interactive experience developer, and online community manager, which are composed of a set of digital and transferable skills. A few words about each of the profiles of the job roles. The digital strategy manager supports a museum's technological and digital innovation, should have a good knowledge of how a museum works, but at the same time should have a good knowledge of what technology is available, so that could match the needs with the technology offers, and should mediate between the museum internal environment and the external environment. The digital collections curator is a more creative, let's say, person who is responsible for improving the museum's digital preservation management and the exploitation plan, develops online and offline exhibitions and content using technology, produces metadata, provides information on copyright protection, and so on. Then, the digital interactive experience developer carries out audience research, as we heard before. This is a very important aspect, and actually part of this project is based on the ADESTE findings. We used some of the ADESTE findings. Designs and develops interactive and innovative installations using technology, develops tools, and facilitates communication flow between the different museum teams and external companies. And finally, the online community manager who designs and implements an online audience development plan. As we also heard, this should be a long-term strategy and not an ad hoc solution, and involves the other departments into producing this plan, engages with monitors and manages online audience, and evaluates this plan and the strategy. To achieve this, we used various European tools and instruments like EQF, ECVET, and ECAVET to design the training and the quality of the training. We were based on European frameworks and standards, competence frameworks and standards such as ECF and DIGCOMP. And of course, we want to map the profiles in ESCO and national qualification frameworks. This was the first stage of the project, and all of these outcomes are available online on the project website in 3 publications, let's say. The first one is called Museum Professions in the Digital Era and summarizes the key findings of the research carried out in the 3 project countries, Greece, Portugal, and Italy. It identifies the fundamental digital and transferable competencies needed by museum professionals. Then, in this publication, we describe the 4 occupational profiles that I talked to you about. We describe the competencies and how they are used to compose the profile. And this is let's say, a bonus outcome, which we had not previewed in the proposal, but it came out of the research. Museum of the Future, Insights and Reflections from 10 international museums, contains interviews with museum directors about the future of their museum with respect to technologies. Then the next stage was to design and implement the training, and the training consists of 3 stages. In the first stage, we designed and implemented a MOOC, a massive online open course, which contains all the basic competencies, digital and transferable, that are associated with all 4 profiles. So this is, let's say, the first stage, and then now this is running. It started in January, it will run until March. And then we will continue with a specialization course, different one for each profile. All of these are based on a set of competencies. And finally, at the end of the specialization course, there is workplace learning with the help of the museums, of the networks that participate in the consortium. Probably you noticed that we have ICOM as a partner, and they are going to give us access to the museums to implement workplace learning. A few more words about the MOOC. I didn't skip a slide, did I? No. Well, the training is at EQL level 5. Its design is based on learning outcomes, and it presents a unique combination of 3 frameworks. ECF, this is the framework for the IET competencies, for digital competencies for IT professionals. It's a standard now. DIGCOMP, a framework of digital competencies for the non-IT professional, and a framework for transversal competencies. And those who complete the MOOC, some of them will be selected to follow to the specialization courses. And As Paolo already said, for the MOOC, we received 5,200 applications worldwide, not only from the 3 participating countries. Somehow this MOOC, everybody found out about it. We couldn't say no. It's an open course, so we have to say yes. Around 5,000 people started. Well, now about 1,000 are still continue. They found it too hard, actually, to follow. So this is something we need to have in mind, make it easier. Here you can see the topics of the MOOC per week. As I said, it's an 8-week MOOC, and you can see in each week there is a combination of ECF competencies, digital competencies, or transferable competencies. It's a modular approach, and as I will show you later, I'll show you later how we compose all of these things. Just keep in mind that all these competencies come from frameworks, and they are combined together to create the MOOC, and we will follow the same approach for the specialization courses. This is an example of how we approach the design of the training for one competence. For example, this is an ECF competence called business plan development, which we have to adapt for museums. We identified learning outcomes at different levels first, and then we created units. On the left, you can see the different units that map to the learning outcomes, and here at the bottom are the generic outcomes, the objectives of this module. So now, this is the first page of our MOOC server that we have, we maintain in our group in DAISY. There are other MOOCs, also the Musa MOOC is here. You click on the MOOC, you go to the first page, you see some information about the MOOC, the 8 weeks on the left, but also here at the bottom, using icons, and you click on the first week and go on. Now I have clicked on the second week actually, and each week there is a description of the contents and 3 modules, the 3 competencies that compose the training content of this second week. ECF competence on the left, 2 Digicom competencies follow. Now per competence, you get, when you click on one of them, for example on business plan development, you get a description of the competence and the learning outcomes, and on the right, you see the first link is a link to a forum, a discussion forum that is used by the tutor of the competence and the trainees to discuss about this specific module, and then the units, the actual training content that make up this competence. And if you click on a unit, you are moved to the page for this unit. You get the specific learning outcomes for the unit, a description for the unit, and the actual content, which can be something to read. In this case, it's a PDF, or can be a video that you can watch with the transcript and in 4 languages, all of this. Okay, the 3 languages of the consortium plus English. And at the end of each unit, there is an assessment test that you have to answer, and you have to get an overall score of 80% in order to move on. Okay, so we are closing. Then we will continue with the 4 specialization courses. Some of the trainees who will complete the MOOC will be selected to continue with these courses, and at the end, as I said, some of these participants will be selected to do workplace learning. Now, because of all these things, already this project, as Paolo said, has become famous. This was not our intention, but it happened, and we have been also included in the Digicom user guide as one of the good practices of using Digicom, and then we also passed to the finals. We are one of the few projects that are now used as a model case by European Commission to study the application of Digicom in order to improve it. And we didn't even mention Digicom in the proposal. It came out after the needs analysis, because we realized we wanted to only include ECF competencies for IT professionals. And then we realized that there is a huge gap between where museum professionals are now and between the IT professionals' competencies. And we try to fill this gap with Digicom. That's why this project is being studied now by European Commission on how we combine these frameworks. To the right, you can see the project contact points, let's say, the website, social media, and so on. To the left, you can see the team, and I'm happy that two of the team members are here. They are sitting with us, and you can ask us later about this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. So we are the many European interesting experiences. Now we come back to our region, to Basilicata, and we will hear a presentation about Festivalia and how something like that might seem a complex topic is like presented to the community through a dissemination activity. So from the archaeological work of the University of Basilicata, Professor Sogliani will present us the practice.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody, and thank you for this invitation. I'm very proud to present you a study case concerning the transfer of archaeological research data to the territories and to the communities. The first part will be our idea about these disseminations of informations coming from the research of the university. The second one will be the site we will approach, and the final one will be the way to do storytelling for archaeology in order to our experience. So I'm the head of the Postgraduate School of Archaeology of the University of Basilicata, and I'm the director of a regional project which is called CORA, Archaeological Laboratories in Basilicata, in partnership with the University Roma Tor Vergata and the École Pratique of Haute Études of Paris. This project will address a lot of archaeological sites here in the region, and these sites are concerning our projects of archaeological investigations in a diachronic way, because we are digging up in the ancient site of Policoro, here in Matera, in Santa Maria d'Anglona, in Grumentum, in Satrianum, a lot of archaeological sites dating from 8th century before Christ to late medieval period. I start always with this slide because it is a topic about archaeology. And we think always that a lot of people think that archaeology is Indiana Jones. Okay, it's a very good message for us, a very good promotion and publicity. But the research is a little bit different from the movie. But anyway, we will be very happy. We would be very happy if Harrison Ford could come here to present our archaeological researchers, to be a promoter. Anyway, I use these slides because it's one of the ways to approach public talking about archaeology. But archaeology is a lot of things now. It's not like the ancient way to do archaeology, the antiquarian way. It's a very new branch of research. And it's a branch of research who also taking into account all the debates about theoretical archaeology, new archaeology, processualism about archaeology, and it mixed together all these kind of cloud words you see here in the slides. It's a science for the researchers, is a occasion, a chance for the for people. We talked about this before, And it's a very good chance for the future of our country and of Europe, of course. We are very rich in archaeology, but the archaeology has to be approached in a good way. And our philosophy is to share our data, the data of the research, also for the university. It is the third mission, we call it third mission. The first one is education, research, and disseminations of data, transferring data of the research to the communities, to the landscape, to the territories. And we start from childs, of course, because they will be the people, the future people. And so we work with childs to share our information in an experimental way. With interactive storytelling, we talked about this before, our colleagues, and I thank them for their approach, for their presentations. We had a lot of experiments with the children in the museums. And also we organize a camp for children from 6 years to 16 years in our archaeological projects, in our archaeological sites, because we share also the digging with them in different ways, of course, and it's very successful experiments with them, coming from all over Italy and also from abroad, here in Matera and in another place of the region. So in the philosophy of storytelling, so to share in particular way our data, we approach a case study. You can go over. And also I'm telling nothing new about this slide, but we try to participate the story of the site we are digging with the stories of the communities who live in this site. Firstly, because the ethic perception is that the story of a site is firstly the story of the people who lives in that site. So it's a question of identity, and moreover it's a question of conservation of the cultural heritage, because if you know well your territories, your landscapes, you can defend it, you can do conservation of the cultural heritage. So our university is very committed in this philosophy. Our group, the group of the school of the postgraduate School of Archaeology, is continuing this perspective of study in our archaeological sites. And the sites I've chosen for my speech is a site, an internal site of the region. It is called Torre di Satriano. It's a very ancient settlement dating back from 8th century before Christ, with a lot of phases, chronological phases, ending on the hilltop with the medieval settlement. That one you can see with the tower inside, and this is the map. Our university has done a lot of archaeological campaigns, but all the territories has been detected with the survey campaigns, archaeological survey and digging archaeological investigations. So these are all the sites we have digged up, and this is a line, the timeline we built with all the data of our discoveries. So we do public archaeology. It means that during all the month we are on the sites digging up, a lot of people can come to visit us, and we organize some days, some special days, we call it Archaeolounge or open days on different in our different sites we are digging up, and people come and share with us all the information. The archaeologists who are digging up the sites, they share information with people. we can pass. These are all the sites we dig up. This is the medieval church and the medieval tower on the settlement. And we start to do a very big exposition on the site. And we think to use the tower as a museum. It means that the tower, which was the first, the most important site of the power in the medieval period, of the owner of the site, of the settlement of Satrianum. We know it from the written sources. So the tower has been restored and it hosts a multimedia museum in which there is the storytelling of all the settlement of the territory. So also we built a path through all the archaeological sites. So you can pass the archaeological sites. You can see all the dwelling we dug, and you can also see some panels along the road. But you are walking on the same path, on the same roads that the ancient inhabitants of the settlement they do. So it's like an immersion in the medieval period, walking inside the site and reaching the tower where there is the museum. Inside the tower, this is the path you see, and these panels are telling you what happens and what happened on this settlement on the base of our archaeological data. This is the plan of the tower inside. And you can see all the people coming there. So the exposition inside the tower of the museum of Torre di Satriano, it has been built merging traditional panels, written panels, and multimedia tools. Here there is the story of the archaeological research. You can move on this touch screen the pages of this book where the archaeological, the history of the archaeological research is written on this book, and a lot of these panels has a QR code. You can have your tablet when you enter in the museum, and you can front the QR code and have more information from the panels. The history is concerning the territories, the resources of the territories, the settlement, and the history of the settlement during centuries, of course. And there is a very big plan on the pavement where a video, a movie run on, and you can walk inside. All the little children, they stay up the video so they can enter in the storytelling of the sites. It's very amusing for them. These are the tablets with the QR codes. Very little and very few objects coming from the excavation are on this stage inside the tower. This is the first floor, and it's open, the first floor. You can look down and see all the movies on the pavement. And more, we try to animate this site, and with a format which is called Festivalia, l'archeologia si racconta, I think the storytelling of archaeology. It's a festival for us, and I think about it 2 years ago, and we tried to bring this in this site, which was one of the sites best digged from our equipe. So I tried the other one, please. I tried to organize the medieval workshops. Because at the end of the month, of our digging month, the idea was to organize a storytelling with a drama with a dramatic company, theater company, and to involve the people building all the structures, all the elements to recreate, to do a scenography about a medieval day on the castle. This was a very important fortified site in the medieval period for the days. And at the end of the month, this storytelling, this drama, the very important things is that I try to engage all the community of the country, of the village where we were, of the country of Tito, the municipality of Tito. And I ask everyone in Tito to the grocer or to the restaurant, people who has commercial activities to participate with us. So we dress them with research about ancient medieval dresses. We dressed them and we found recipes, medieval recipes. So we asked them to sell medieval recipes and to organize all the scenography from all the afternoon and in the evening when we end with this performance, which is called the Banquet of the Count Goffredus. And the Count Goffredo was the owner, we know it from the written sources, it was the owner of the site at the end of the 11th century. And we know that he was meeting the bishop because this site was a medieval bishopry, and so we imagined the relationship between the Count Goffredo and the bishop, and we built. Okay, I can follow some pictures about these sites with all the buildings we did during the day, and you see here all the people coming from the country to do this. Okay, it's just to show you the sequence of the pictures concerning this performance we did, and it is also a way to learn the building techniques during medieval period, because we share it with experimental archaeology with this guy who has an association dealing with experimental archaeology, with building texts, ancient, medieval and building techniques. And for us it's also to show how to build, to build a complex, an architectonical complex. So we use a lot of parameters to do this kind of experience, which has been very useful for us as researchers, and very very clever for people, because they can comprehend really how this kind of building was built and was used and was inhabited in this period. Also, we ask in pottery to do the same kind of potteries on the table, and we use the same, we find the same pottery in the archaeological sites. So for us it has been a very good experience. We had it also in the year before, last year. We changed the story. It was the story of a marriage in a medieval period. And so we built all our experience. 400 people, 500 people was coming on the top of the hill to follow us in this day. And we think that it's a good manner, a good way to share scientific data to the communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, as I was saying before, last year was the European Year of Cultural Heritage. This year for Matera and for Basilicata is a big year. We have been waiting for this for a long time, at least 10 years, as I was telling you before. And I will ask Ariane Bier, which is the cultural manager of Matera 2019 Foundation, to to come here and to tell us a little what is going to happen in Matera about cultural heritage this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. I have only 2 pictures. And I will be very short, but I guess it's important also to connect the work that we are preparing here in Matera and now starting to show to Europe, how it is connected also to the idea of heritage that has been in a way changed with the European Year of Cultural Heritage in Europe. Strangely, coming from 2 separate ways, parallel ways, these 2 ideas of heritage connected last year and this year. Fundamentally, Matera is a UNESCO World Heritage. It's well known for that, for many reasons. And it's a long story for humanity, because this city lived, hosted inhabitants constantly for more than 8,000 years. So we can really feel the story living here. It's vibrant in that sense, at least. Coming from abroad, it's what I'm feeling when the first time I come here. And the project of Matera 2019 is called Open Future. So that was clearly the idea to connect this long story, make it a real value, but presenting it also as a city creating project for the future. So this is a kind of big jump between the 2 idea that we have between heritage and what could be the future, that most of the time is not seen as something that can be combined. And it's clearly what the project of Matera 2019 wanted to do. And last year, when the European Year of Cultural Heritage started, we also became a stakeholder as one of the partners here for the European Commission to change a little bit the idea of what can be the cultural heritage and how we can deal with it. And the main idea was that the cultural heritage can be a source for the new and the contemporary creation. So as a value that we can take and use it as a reinterpretation for the future. And this is what also what we were working on. So in that sense, the 2 projects or the 2 visions connected. So I don't present now the whole program of Matera 2019. I just want to say that there is more than 50 original productions that is made only for Matera 2019. This is based on 5 big topics, always connected the past to the future. And it's really using the past as the matter, as the material for artists or for creative to implement and create something new, and the new idea of what we can presenting to the world, the idea of, in a way, of the humanity or simply of what Matera wants to deal with. And then we are also considering 2 types of heritage. This is the tangible and the intangible heritage, of course. Matera 2019, within the project, works on both. Intangible, as example, are the huge work on the archives, a collection of archives, of regional archives about objects, songs, or whatever is cultural here. It's not such an important archive, but it has a documentary value. And taking this archive in a platform, this is the ID project, it's one of the pilot projects. Taking this archive, we are inviting international artists to deal with it, getting into it, and taking some pieces and doing some installation, film, and new creations, starting from that. So there will be at least 5 installation film outputs during the year, every 2 months, basically from March on. Tangible, of course, are all the construction, all the chassis, and all the city in itself, of course. And intangible is also what is the culture, like can be so special for Italy to present or to reinterpret now in Europe. I mean the circus and also the opera culture. So we really worked on both aspects. Intangible is mostly about the archives and what is from the long story of Matera can be used as a value. Could also be the value of dealing with frugality or generosity. These are values that we also want to share and to bring it as a kind of intangible heritage in a way, because it's so special here. And about tangible heritage, we really wanted also to use the city as a stage itself. Because all the productions will be presenting in the city or in the region, but it also always have to deal with this heritage that we can have everywhere. Could be landscape, of course, but also the Sassi and also the quarry of Cava del Sole, as example, that has been renewed especially for this event. And now I just want to talk about 2 main projects. 3, the one is running right now is Circus Plus. It's not only about circus. The idea is to take the circus as a world, as a universe in itself, of what has been the traditional circus story with the big family of circus in Italy, and then in this moment we are presenting what is the more European and innovative creations in Europe in a circus tent. So this is one of the first steps of the year in order to launch this idea of connecting past to future. And the second big step in that sense is the creation of the Purgatorio. It's one of Dante, of course. So there is the Teatro delle Albe, an Italian company, very famous, that is coming here for at least 2 months. They are now starting working with people here, engaging them in the co-creation of this new Purgatorio. And this will be done within the city. So from what is one of the biggest heritage in literature in Italy, taking it to what could be co-created also with people, with inhabitants, and then presenting it to the audience. This is also a mean to blur a little bit the boundaries between the audience, the participants, the actors, and the co-creators as well. So we are really, this is helping us to blurry this category of being either audience or either actors or protagonists. And one of highlights also of Matera 2019 is the Abitare l'Opera. This project is called Inhabiting Opera, and is based on an idea of Teatro San Carlo di Napoli, the opera of Naples, that came in Matera and had a kind of vision at that time, and decided that Matera could be the biggest stage for renew the concept of opera. So what we are now creating, and I say now because today and tonight we are having some tests, some quite complex steps in the production. So I know you are having a dinner very close to that place, so you can see some images. We are working on it, so you are in the production process now. And the idea is not to present an opera, Cavalleria Rusticana, that is quite classic. It's not the idea to present it as opera for open air, but is to take exactly the city and use it as a stage. That means that we are also blurring what is the stage and the place of the audience, and we are mixing it. There will be the orchestra on one part, the choir on the part, the actors and the singers on the other one. There will be the audience that can move and be in different places. And there will be also videos taking all the points of view and connecting all the actions in one or more, that's what we will decide after this evening, one or more projection in the city. So that means that we don't have one stage and one representation, but a kind of multiplied visions of one production. Because we really want to use it as a playground in a way. So it's a city as a stage, but also the city is a playground for the creation. This will, the one with the Dante and Purgatorio creation will be in May, at the end of May, and the Abitare l'Opera will be at the beginning of the first 2 weeks of August. Of course, the preparation will be also open air, so there is also no clear boundaries between the production process and the representation. And this is really experimental, I have to say. So it's also a big challenge. And the other challenge that we are facing is that we also, the presentation of this opera will be by night, of course, but we also want to involve the community, like it is with the Purgatorio, to be part of the action during the day. Partly as artists, partly as musician or whatever, but also inhabitants, wanting to introduce slowly the preparation of what would be on stage, having small intervention during the day and mixing it also with the daily life. So it will be very progressive to the event itself, and this is, I guess, one of the biggest creation because it is the more challenging. Of course, there are many others. One is also connecting with the opera, and the challenge is more about the creation process and the method. It's the Silent City project that are composing a new opera. So this is participating also in renewing the format of the opera. That has not to be seen only as an old an old kind of performance, but can be also renewed. This opera is being written with people, ancient people, but also very young and school children. This is all the challenges. So this one in August, the last one in December, to do the link also between the years. There is also urban games, but dedicated to heritage, and many other projects that, of course, is the link with the city itself, and then has also to there is also the car art project leaders here that are showing us what is the landscape, and also how we can go through the region, the landscape itself as a value of a heritage, and making in it interesting artistic creation, asking artists to intervene within this this context. So for myself, coming from abroad, it's very unique to create and produce here in Matera, and it's hopefully for the people from Matera, it's and I know it's quite normal to have this incredible heritage and to live in. But I hope to surprise them with the creation that will be presented, and I also really want to surprise European people coming here with the value of this heritage and how we can connect it also with this contemporary issue that we have all. So it's a year to enjoy and to discover. Thank you.
So thank you very much to all the speakers. You had like a very different presentation on some of the aspects that we really would like to bring inside our project. So what are the next steps for us? We are going to we have just started this new project, so in the next 3 years we are going to work on some of the topics that have been discussed here, so from the digital competencies to the communication and storytelling aspect applied to cultural heritage, from the connection, we heard about this project of like involving artists in using the heritage to create and generate new performances. This is also part of what we are going to do, trying to connect cultural heritage operators with artists and creative industries to innovate and activate cross-fertilization process. So, of course, this is just one of the activities that Materahub we run during 2019 for the operators of the cultural sector, for creative industries. So our idea is to try as much as possible during this year to connect our like official project event, so working event, with opportunity like this one, where we want our partners from Europe to meet the local community of experts and professionals from the sector. So keep on following us for next events, and I hope this has been inspiring for you. Of course, if you have any question, we will circulate the contact of the people that have been here with us today, and also the presentation, and we will try to to connect you with them for the future. So thank you very much for your participation, and see you soon.